Imagine sitting across the table from someone, maybe at a coffee shop or, a dinner party,
Right.
and they flash you this absolutely flawless, confident smile. But what if they leaned in and told you that just beneath the gum line, their living skeleton was permanently welded to a piece of weapons-grade titanium?
I mean, most people wouldn't believe it.
Exactly. Would you believe them?
Mm-hmm.
Because we live in an era where we expect everything to be instantaneous.
Yeah. Next day delivery, fast food, all of it.
Right. Instant downloads.
Yeah.
And we tend to expect our healthcare, even our dentistry, to operate on that exact same on-demand frequency.
Oh, absolutely.
We just assume you walk into a clinic with a missing tooth, they, pop a synthetic one in, and you walk out ready to bite into a crisp apple.
Yeah, because we only ever see the surface aesthetic, right? So we completely miss the architectural reality that's happening underneath. The expectation of this, one and done overnight fix is incredibly common. But the physical reality of achieving a restoration that actually lasts, that functions like native human anatomy, it operates on a fundamentally different timeline.
It really does.
It's this slow, methodical collision of biological adaptation and really high-end engineering.
A hidden multi-month journey. And honestly, that is exactly our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking at this really comprehensive educational guide, and it's titled The Multi-Month Journey of a Dental Implant.
It's a great resource.
It really is. This material is brought to us by my gentle dentist, Brookside. They're a clinic located right in the heart of the Brookside community, and you can find their approach to this entire timeline detailed over at mygentledentistbrookside.com.au.
Highly recommend checking that out.
So today we are going to guide you through the exact 4 phases of a dental implant, really breaking down the mechanics, the biology, and just the sheer engineering required to permanently rebuild a human smile.
There's a lot to it.
There is. Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start long before anyone reaches for a drill or a scalpel.
Right.
Phase 1 is the consultation and the 3D scan. Because you can't just jump into the chair on day 1.
No, definitely not. You cannot alter the physical topography of the mouth without understanding the invisible structures beneath the tissue.
Makes sense.
Because when a patient loses a tooth, a cascade of biological changes begins almost immediately. And it's completely out of sight.
Wow, really? Immediately?
Yeah, because the jawbone is incredibly efficient. It only maintains density where it's actively receiving stimulation, from the pressure of chewing through a tooth root.
Right, so there's a use it or lose it situation.
Exactly. Once that root is gone, the body essentially determines that the bone in that specific area just isn't necessary anymore. So it stops sending calcium and nutrients to the site, and the jawbone literally begins to resorb or melt away back into the body.
That is, I was thinking about this biological reality, and it actually reminds me of taking a soil sample before attempting to lay the foundation of a skyscraper.
That's a good way to look at it.
Right. Like, you can hire the world's greatest structural engineers, you can source the absolute finest steel and glass, but if you try to build a massive tower on, say, loose sand or a sinkhole,
It's going to collapse.
the entire structure is doomed. So the density of the jawbone is basically the soil. If that biological foundation is melted away, the implant just has nothing to anchor to.
That's spot on. The guide actually uses a similar analogy, comparing it to architectural planning before building a house.
Right.
The clinical team uses advanced cone beam computed tomography, or CBCT scanning, to evaluate that exact load-bearing capacity.
And this isn't just a regular X-ray at the dentist, right?
No, this is not a flat two-dimensional X-ray. It actually captures hundreds of images from different angles to create this highly detailed three-dimensional digital replica of the patient's skull.
Oh.
Yeah, they're looking at the width of the bone, the density of the bone, and this is crucial, the exact location of critical anatomical landmarks.
Like what kind of landmarks?
Well, for instance, in the lower jaw, there's a major nerve pathway called the inferior alveolar nerve.
Okay.
And in the upper jaw, you have the sinus cavities. The 3D scan allows the team to meticulously map the trajectory of the titanium implant down to the millimeter.
Down to the millimeter.
Yes, ensuring it completely avoids those critical structures while, finding the densest pocket of bone. Absolute precision in phase 1 guarantees safety and comfort later.
So the team isn't just checking if you have enough bone. They are actively running digital simulations of the procedure before you even sit in the surgical chair.
That's exactly it. They're mapping out the precise angle of insertion based on your unique anatomy.
And the guide notes that for the patient, This entire mapping phase is just a really relaxed conversation.
Yeah, it's totally painless.
You just sit there, you look at the digital architecture of your own skull on a screen, and you understand the customized roadmap.
And the psychological benefit of that transparency is just immense.
I bet.
Because anxiety in dental settings usually stems from the unknown, right? The fear of what's happening out of sight.
Oh, for sure. Sitting in the chair, hearing the noises, it's stressful.
Right. But when a patient can look at a computer monitor and see the exact pre-calculated trajectory of their treatment, that fear is pretty much dismantled by logic and planning.
That makes total sense. So the soil is tested, the digital blueprints are completely locked in, and the structural plan is set.
Yep.
Which necessitates the transition from digital theory to physical reality. We move to phase 2, surgical placement. This is where we finally break ground.
Exactly. And because of the rigorous 3D blueprinting in phase 1, the clinical team doesn't need to perform invasive exploratory work.
But you already know exactly where they're going.
Right. They take the digital map and translate it into a physical surgical guide. It's this custom-fitted piece that sits over the gums and dictates the exact angle and depth for the instruments.
Okay, but I'm looking at the word surgery in this guide, and I'll be honest, my mind goes straight to, like, a week in bed with an ice pack.
Yeah, that's what most people think.
Right. I think of trauma, incisions, and just a miserable recovery. Surgery usually implies a long, painful ordeal. Are you telling me they just feel a little pressure? I'm struggling to understand how drilling a hole into the human skeleton and inserting a piece of metal results in what the guide describes as minimal discomfort. It just sounds entirely counterintuitive.
What's fascinating here is the sensory mapping of the jawbone itself.
Okay.
Our brains associate dental pain with the intense, sharp agony of a toothache.
Oh yeah, the worst.
But a toothache is caused by inflammation of the pulp inside the tooth, which is packed with highly sensitive nerve endings.
Right.
The jawbone, however, has a surprisingly low density of pain receptors.
Wait, really? The bone itself?
Yeah, the bone itself. Once the localized soft tissue of the gum is numbed, the bone doesn't register sharp pain in the way we expect. Patients are often surprised by how comfortable the experience actually is.
So the trauma isn't what we imagine because the anatomy is entirely different than the anatomy of, localized cavity.
Exactly. And because of that 3D surgical guide we talked about, they aren't making wide incisions to figure out where they are.
Right, they aren't guessing.
The insertion is micro-targeted. A tiny, highly engineered titanium post is gently threaded into the pre-planned site.
And the patient feels what?
The patient will feel pressure, and they will definitely feel the vibration of the instruments, but that sharp pain associated with the word surgery is absent.
Wow.
And the titanium post itself is not a smooth piece of metal, by the way. It looks like a small screw featuring this complex topography of macroscopic threads.
How do you give it grip?
Exactly. To provide immediate mechanical stability, locking it tightly into the bone from day one.
Okay, so the physical hardware is in. The team gives you your aftercare instructions, you leave the clinic, and then you wait.
You wait.
You have a piece of metal in your jaw, but no visible tooth.
Yeah.
To a patient, it probably feels like the process just, stalled.
Yeah, like nothing is happening.
Right, but this is where the journey gets deeply biological. The human engineering takes a back seat, and we enter phase 3, the biological waiting game.
It really is a massive biological pause. You cannot simply attach a visible tooth to that new titanium root and send the patient to a steakhouse.
That would be a bad idea.
A terrible idea. If you apply heavy bite force to an implant that relies solely on the mechanical friction of those sprue threads, it will inevitably fail.
Because it hasn't healed.
Right, the body has not yet accepted the hardware. We are waiting for a microscopic cellular process called osseointegration. Osseo meaning bone, and integration meaning to fuse.
So what does this all mean? Like, if I get a splinter of wood in my finger, my immune system immediately attacks it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It gets red, inflamed, and my body aggressively tries to push the foreign object out. Why doesn't the immune system do the exact same thing to a piece of titanium threaded into the jaw? Does this imply the listener's skeleton is literally accepting and merging with a piece of metal?
It does. And well, before the 1950s, that rejection is exactly what happened with early implant attempts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The immune system would detect a foreign material, launch an inflammatory response, and essentially wall the object off with a layer of fibrous scar tissue.
Just treating it like a big splinter.
Exactly. It's a process called fibrous encapsulation. The implant would become loose and ultimately fail.
So what changed?
Well, in 1952, a Swedish researcher named Per Ingvar Brånemark made this serendipitous discovery. He was actually studying blood flow in rabbits, and he had placed these small titanium optical chambers into their leg bones.
Okay.
When he tried to remove the chambers months later, he found he couldn't. The living bone had structurally fused to the titanium.
Wait, the rabbit's immune system just completely ignored the metal.
Yep, because titanium has a highly unique chemical property. The moment it's exposed to oxygen, it instantly forms a microscopic layer of titanium oxide on its surface.
So it's like a disguise.
It's exactly like a disguise. When the immune system's macrophages patrol the area looking for, foreign invaders, they encounter this titanium oxide cloak.
Wow.
Instead of registering it as a threat to be attacked, the body perceives it as a benign native scaffolding.
That is incredible. And the guide emphasizes that you simply cannot rush this phase. Like, the old analogy I usually hear is that, like, rushing the process is like building a beautiful house on wet cement.
Right. The guide uses that exact analogy. You simply cannot rush biology.
But, cement is static, right? It's just dead material waiting to dry. Based on what you're saying about the body treating it like scaffolding, it sounds more like planting ivy at the base of a brick wall.
Yeah, we like that.
Because the ivy, the living bone cells, has to literally reach out, climb the wall, and grip into the microscopic pores of the brick.
Taking that IV analogy further, the cellular mechanisms are constantly at work during these 3 to 4 months.
So it's really active down there.
Highly active. Specialized cells called osteoclasts arrive first to clear away any microscopic debris from the surgery.
Okay, kind of the cleanup crew.
Exactly. And they are followed by osteoblasts, which are the bone-building cells.
Right.
These osteoblasts migrate directly onto the rough, highly engineered surface of the titanium implant. They secrete a mineral matrix that slowly hardens, literally weaving the living bone into the micro threads of the metal.
The skeleton is actively reaching out and engulfing the post.
Yes. And if a patient were to chew on that implant prematurely, any micro movement, even a fraction of a millimeter, would physically tear that delicate, newly formed ivy before it had a chance to fully grip the metal.
Oh, wow. So it would just rip right off.
Right. And then the body would abandon osseointegration, revert to an inflammatory response, and wall the implant off with scar tissue.
Back to the splinter reaction.
Exactly. That is why the timeline requires an uncompromised 3 to 4 months. The biological fusion must be absolute.
And what is remarkable about this 3 to 4 month marathon is just how uneventful it is for the patient.
Very uneventful.
You are walking around, going to the grocery store, sleeping, working, and all the while, your jawbone is quietly welding itself to a synthetic root beneath your gum line.
Yeah.
You don't feel it happening. You just follow your basic aftercare instructions and let your cellular biology do the heavy lifting in the dark.
It is a profound exercise in patients trusting a microscopic process that you just cannot see. But the physiological payoff is a structural foundation that becomes a permanent part of your anatomy.
Which brings us directly to the physical payoff. The foundation is biologically locked. The ivy has woven into the metal. Now we finally build the visible architecture.
Phase 4.
Phase 4. The crowning glory. The final custom-fit crown delivery.
So the patient returns to the clinic, and the team verifies that the osseointegration is successful and the implant is rock solid.
After all those months of waiting.
Right. And now they take a final digital impression. But this scan is no longer about bone density or surgical trajectories,
Right, we're past that.
This is purely about aesthetic and functional architecture. They're capturing the exact contours of the gums and the spacing between the adjacent teeth to craft the visible crown.
So this isn't just a generic, mass-produced white cap they pull off a shelf in the back room.
Definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation.
They are designing a highly aesthetic, custom-milled crown, usually made of advanced materials like porcelain or zirconia, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it is engineered to seamlessly match the shade and shape of the natural teeth sitting right next to it.
The craftsmanship involved in matching the surrounding teeth is truly staggering. Natural enamel is not an opaque block of solid white.
Right.
It has a complex gradient of color, and more importantly, it has translucency. Light physically passes through the edges of our natural teeth.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about creating this crown like executing an elite art forgery.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to put it.
Right, because if you were trying to forge a newly discovered painting by a grandmaster, You cannot just get the colors vaguely right.
No, it would be obvious.
You have to match the specific brushstrokes, the exact texture of the aged canvas, and the precise way the oil paint catches the light in a museum gallery. If you miss those subtle details, the human eye detects the forgery instantly. It has to perfectly mimic nature.
That exact phenomenon is known as the uncanny valley effect.
The uncanny valley.
Yeah, we are biologically hardwired to notice when a human feature looks slightly artificial, even if we can't articulate why.
Like when a CGI face in a movie just looks a little weird.
Exactly. If the translucency of the crown is off by even 5%, or if the way it refracts light doesn't match the tooth right next to it, it will always look like a piece of dental work rather than a part of the patient's body.
That makes total sense.
So the clinical team works with master ceramists to perfectly mimic nature, baking in those subtle gradients and textures so the forgery is entirely undetectable.
And once that aesthetic masterpiece is securely attached to the integrated titanium root, the functional change is instantaneous. The guide states you can immediately bite an apple, chew a tough steak, and smile for photos with absolute confidence. It is a multi-month investment of time for a beautifully restored smile that can last a lifetime.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you begin to understand the incredible biomechanics of the human jaw.
How so?
Well, the bite force of an adult human can easily exceed 200 pounds of pressure per square inch.
200 pounds. Wow.
Yeah. And natural teeth have a periodontal ligament. It's a microscopic shock absorber between the root and the bone.
Okay.
An implant does not have that ligament. It is directly fused to the skeleton.
Oh, I see.
Therefore, the engineering of the crown and the strength of that osseointegration must perfectly account for the immense, unyielding pressure of daily chewing. You are investing a season of your life to wait for the bone to heal precisely so the final structure can withstand that kind of heavy-duty lifetime function.
It totally shatters the idea of dentistry as a quick fix. It is a multi-month restorative journey. Let's trace the arc of what we just explored for everyone listening.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. The journey begins with phase 1, the consultation and that meticulous 3D architectural mapping to ensure the biological soil of your jaw is ready to support the load.
Right.
Then we transition into phase 2, the highly controlled, micro-targeted surgical placement of the titanium root, capitalizing on the jawbone's low pain receptors.
Yep.
Then we hit the biological pause of phase 3, waiting 3 to 4 months for the marvel of osseointegration, where your bone cells literally weave into the titanium oxide cloak. And finally, phase 4, the delivery of the custom-crafted translucent crown that restores flawless aesthetics and heavy-duty bite force.
When you lay the phases out sequentially like that, the necessity of the timeline just becomes undeniable.
Totally undeniable.
It also highlights why the environment where you receive this treatment is so critical. If you are navigating a missing tooth, seeking out compassionate, state-of-the-art care like the team at My Gentle Dentist Brookside is really the logical first step.
Absolutely.
They have structured their approach to guide patients through these specific 4 phases, ensuring the journey is as transparent and comfortable as possible. Listeners can explore their methodology directly at mygentledentistbrookside.com.au.
It is a brilliant deep dive into a biomechanical marvel that is hiding in plain sight in millions of smiles right now.
It really is.
But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a thought to turn over in your own mind. We have spent this entire time focused on the jaw and the restoration of a single tooth. But if the human jawbone can seamlessly accept and fuse with a synthetic piece of weapons-grade titanium, if our living bone cells will eagerly reach out, grip the metal, and create a permanent, indestructible bond over 3 to 4 months, where biology and engineering become entirely indistinguishable. What does that say about the sheer untapped adaptability of human biology?
That's a huge
It
question.
makes you wonder, as material science continues to rapidly advance, what other incredible integrations of biology and synthetic engineering might our bodies be capable of accepting in the future?